你好嘛，我的名字傅立，新年快乐，牛年，小姐先生好不好？我很高兴看见你，我的客户，谢谢你的照顾。Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Navigate B2B. I'm your host, Steve Ferreira, and welcome to the Year of the Ox. Happy New Year to all my friends, China and around the world. If you're a client of Ocean Audit, thank you so much for your business. I admit my Chinese, my Mandarin is a little rusty. Great lessons from a teacher named Kitty in Taipei, Taiwan back in 1988. And never forget Kitty. As a matter of fact, it's interesting. She gave me a magic potion when I left Taiwan and came back to the United States. It was this white powder. No, not that kind of powder. But she said, Steve, if you ever have you cut yourself shaving or you have an emergency, just put this on it and no hospital, no bleed. And she was right. I cut myself shaving pretty bad a few months after she'd given me the powder. And the magical proportions of the Chinese medicine worked. I'll never forget my days in Taiwan or Hong Kong or Prague for that matter. I really feel that living around the world has just been an incredible um, e-ticket, so to speak. Now again, e-ticket's something from the 60s and 70s that my millennials and Gen X's won't necessarily relate to, but it used to be the best ride at Disneyland. It was the e-ticket ride, right? I think it was the Matterhorn, a couple of rides in Tomorrowland, kind of my cup of tea. And so I think it was a pretty cool memory and remembrance from my Taiwan days. It's funny. Years later, after that experience, my Chinese teacher's son immigrated to America. We didn't know where, and all of a sudden, we're in church, and he shows up and he says, "Hey, I'm Kitty's son." Don't ask me how that connection happened. It was truly a miracle. So again, welcome to Navigate B2B. I'm Steve Ferreira, CEO of Ocean Audit, host of Navigate B2B, and author of Quitless, The Power of Persistence, and my new upcoming book, Navigating B2B, Master Your Industry, Yourself, and Your Business. So we're really excited about that. As a matter of fact, if we have a little time today, I think I'll read a little excerpt from one of my new books upcoming in April, and that should be something that we could maybe look forward to later on in the show. But to kick the show off, I wanted to talk about some of the things that we have coming up at FreightWaves. We, of course, have our Global Supply Chain Week coming up, which incorporates Global Maritime Week. And I'm truly stoked to be hosting some of the series of fireside chats and sit downs with some industry icons and leaders. And I think the one thing that really dimensionalizes what FreightWaves is doing with Global Maritime Week and Global Supply Chain Week is bringing together leaders that have immediate takeaways that you can use in your own business practice, logistics management teams, finance and supply chain teams. I think that as a student of, when I lived in Europe, the big thing was, well, Steve, with a global maritime symposium, right, or the Global Maritime Congress, my European friends take these congresses and conferences very serious when it comes to global ocean transportation. And we should as well. But we should also have some key takeaways from it and not just listen to, a geopolitical scientist or, somebody talking about the macro demands of elasticity, right? Got a D in that in class, by the way. Not very good at that. Anyway, I think, I'm more of the Gary Vaynerchuk style where, hey, here's three things you need to do today to up your A game, and kick your ass. And that's why we call Navigate B2B television B2B TV for badasses. Right? It's I won't be shy. I'll say it. Right? You can say that word, I think. And I love that. And so, as we look at the Global Supply Chain Week, we'll bring those leaders and those folks that they're your peers, right? You'll have the BCOs, the beneficial cargo owners, the leading NVOCCs, freight forwarders, insights on all aspects and gamuts of this crazy wild time I fondly refer to as container again. And I think that in the spirit of being the year of the ox, and we look at what's happening now in China as we start to pivot towards the industry, and we look at a Chinese New Year that is unlike any that we've seen before. I think the one real exclamation point here is that the experts were wrong and I'm right. And the reason why that is that everyone said this phenomena of Containergeddon would be finished quite soon. Some people said February, some people say March. I think you can immediately start projecting out to June, July, August. And I don't mean when it's going to end. I mean when it's going to get worse. That's right. We're in I think a geologist or astrophysicist might say, a preponderance of some type of profound change, right? Whether it's something scientific with measuring gamma rays from the sun or the way the earth spins. I think we're in a new preponderance of change in trading and global imports, container imports, maritime world. I think we're in a new age of consumerism. I think we're in a new age of how professional logistics men and women perform their roles. Now, I'll come out and say it. I think I'm going to say that I'm one of the top 100 guys that knows how to use LinkedIn, 100% professionally, right? To my greatest ability based on the time I have or the time that my administrative assistant might have to help me. Now, I do most of the legwork. I have a new administrative assistant I'm so proud of and a great graphic artist. We'll talk about that later. But I think it's time to look at the fact that we have so many new fantastic women, men in new roles in logistics and the supply chain. I look at my roster of contacts and followers, and I see hundreds of changes in logistics manager roles, import director roles, director of transportation. And I stop and I wonder, why? Why so many role changes? Is it because companies are used to working out of the living room and they don't perceive or they don't understand the dynamic connections between the most important silo of logistics and finance talking together? Or might it be because the new model of moving towards e-commerce as opposed to the resupply of brick and mortar is changing the paradigm of how we buy as a corporation? I'm just picking corporate, company name X, retailer Y, importer Z. And are the fundamental ways shifting so that as long as we have a warehouse and we have stock, we don't necessarily need the $150,000 or $110,000 logistics team member or members. And I'll tell you why that's profound. As we start to get into Global Supply Chain Week and Global Maritime Week, you'll see various interviews and fireside chats with many of the FreightWaves personalities that do just a terrific job pulling out the right information at the right time. I look at a issue that's a little bit out of my wheelhouse, such as warehousing. Right? And one of the leaders that I'm going to have on the dais, the virtual dais during Ocean Maritime Week, Global Maritime Week, excuse me, he talked about a warehouse or two that he's building or has built. And miraculously, within weeks, humongous square foot warehouses were filled to the brims. How did it go from something that was air to plentiful amounts of cargo? And I think the answer is that we're in a preponderance of moving to an e-commerce model much more severely and quickly than most of the experts and stock analysts recognize. So Ferrera's takeaway on the opportunities at hand. I just look at this industry. It's like, it's a hard to understand industry, right? It's a hard industry to invest in, a hard industry to, in some ways, make consistent profits in, as opposed to the staccato profits that the ocean vendors or carriers are making right now. But nonetheless, it's dynamically swiveling and changing. It's moving very rapidly. Um, and I think that one of the reasons why a lot of new personnel are coming in is that I think executives are saying, hey, we give up, right? We need to take a fresh set of eyes and a new look at how we're going to run our business. And maybe what worked in domestic transportation, warehousing can work as well for the international supply chain, which leads me to my last point on my little editorial here that many of the professionals that I'm seeing come into these new international roles hail from the domestic side of that company's business or have a strong domestic platform bent. I know one executive that becoming quite close to and fond of came from a leading 3PL domestic. We instantly hit it off because he was quite candid and said, "Hey, Steve, I'm thrown into this container getting, oh, no." And I think that it's one of the things that makes us as businessmen and women and sales reps and business development people and marketing people and communications people. I think it's what makes us really valuable is when we can reach out and give a life raft or give some tools, to our brethren, right, that are coming in and looking at these new roles. And so, and I just want to say, just to kind of recap. So you're watching Navigate B2B. I'm Steve Ferrer, CEO of Ocean Audit, host of Navigate B2B. And we've been talking about Chinese New Year and new roles for logistics people, teams, excuse me. And now I'd like to talk about, some of Steve's favorite things that might be able to be used to support our great new brethren coming into the roles. I'm not really a tech person. I kind of am. I'm kind of not, right? My idea on tech is developing and using what works for me. And I just wanted to share with you 5 or 6 things today that I think, can help your game, especially working from home. And it really doesn't matter whether you're a sales rep, a business development person, an entrepreneur, solopreneur like me, running a logistics department for a retailer or a computer hardware importer. It doesn't matter. So some of the tools that I really like, really, really like, they may not seem like ultra sophisticated to you guys, but these are the things that help me save time, help me save money, and most important, allow me to juggle. You've probably heard the proverbial 20 balls without dropping one, or maybe dropping the minor one, right? And so I'll just give you these and make a few editorial comments on each, and then we can continue on with the next part of the show. So I think that followup.cc is an interesting little tool. I guess I call it a lightweight email reminder. But what's great about followup CC is, for example, if I'm sending an email to John Smith at XYZ Importer today, and I'm also sending, 22 other emails, right? I can put in John's email as a BCC, 6D at followup.cc, meaning 6 days at followup. I can say 16 minutes, 16 MIN at followup.cc. And it will suspend that for whatever time I want. So if John says to me, Steve, love your proposal. I'm off to the Swiss Alps for 3 weeks. Then I can say, in the email, I'd say, 3W at followup.cc. And it's an email address, right? And then 3 weeks later, at that designated time, it'll pop up back in your inbox. And to me, it's like fantastic, right? And it shows up in your calendar too, right? So you can have it on your iPhone, your Android, your Outlook, your Gmail calendar. and it's got everything, okay, oh yeah, I need to talk to John. He just came back from the Swiss Alps. How else are you going to know that? Yeah, you can put it in a CRM, right? But I mean, if you're on the move, this is a lightweight tool that to me, my go-to is my calendar, right? So I want to see everything on my calendar. And this follow-up CC is a pretty cheap way to make that happen. Want to get rid of the reminder? You just reply, complete, and it'll take the reminder out of the queue. You'll never see it again. The second thing I like is Mail Tester. Um, MailTester.com is a really interesting point there, number two. And let me talk about that to the camera for a little bit. I think Mail Tester is really an interesting tool because it's not what you think. It's not like, is john.smith@smithbrothers.com a legitimate email. Those tools are kind of, I was going to say, crappy. They don't really work that well because a lot of times you can't authenticate an email except to the server level, not to the person level. Technical thing, but those of you that get it, get it. No, I'm talking on Mail Tester about a program where, let's say, I want to send a new blurb about a special offer I'm making to my network, and I want to customize it a little bit, maybe put in, the person's name. I can take that email, I can run it through and send it to a mail tester address, and it'll come back to me with a score. It'll say, a spam score, right? It'll say, you need to remove this image, or, it'll say your email is, a scale of 7 out of 10, or 8 out of 10, or 9.2 out of 10. And obviously, the higher the number, the better chance your email has of getting through to the inbox and not to the spam box, right? So, email tester is, as far as I know, it's a free tool up until a certain amount of emails that you test. But I've never seen a difference in terms of being charged for it. So you just copy and paste your email, send it to the email tester. Email tester immediately shows you the results in terms of the quality of your email. And if you're doing a huge campaign or a big campaign, it's really important to get it right. Like I don't know if this is the rule, but you probably don't want to use the word like money, right, in an email, because I think money is one of the trigger for spam. These are just my little tips of the trade that I think are important. I love Mail Tester though. Anytime I do a new campaign or something creative, I want to make sure that it looks good to the spam and email gods, right, so to speak, as if I knew what I was talking about. The next tool I like is Shield AI, which is a Google extension for LinkedIn, and it's actually Shield is actually an application for LinkedIn. We're going to talk about that more at length in a second. The fourth and fifth and sixth, I'll cover those real quick. Rebrandly, just real brief, if I can address the folks on Rebrandly. Rebrandly is really kind of a cool thing because you could say, you know how LinkedIn or many programs, you'll put a URL in and it'll short it up, right? It'll say, LNKD X921212. And that's the link, right, that you want clients to click on, or your readers to click on. But that kind of sucks, right? Because, it doesn't say, what's behind the link or what the genre of the link is. So for example, what Rebrandly will do is it will take these really obtruse looking links that, for example, LinkedIn automatically creates. And you could go from like XYZQ2175 to say, my TV show dot, LY, or my audience on China, right? You can custom tag your own URL, and Rebrandly will take the old URL and convert it to one that you buy from them. Actually, I apologize. It has to be a shorter domain. Like I think I have one, TV for you, like TV for the number 4U, YOU. And that's the link, right? So if I do a promo, the link on LinkedIn is going to say TV for you instead of, this crazy, coded tag that, you wouldn't click on. So I love Rebrandly for LinkedIn posting. I think it's a tool that you should seriously consider. The last two, we don't have to put up the chart again on it, but I think the last two that are really important is, and I'm not using it today because I have a solo show, but many times when I have a guest, I have what they call in the trade a confidence monitor mounted right above my camera, right? That would allow me to actually, you know, instead of looking at my laptop, allow me to focus right in on the camera, and then slightly an inch or two above my camera is this, really nice monitor, which, I can interact and interface with my guest almost as if they were, you know, at face level having a nice conversation. And I don't know, for me, it really makes it worthwhile. These confidence monitors are pretty cheap, but again, they are screw mounted. Some you can mount on a tripod. So there's just a couple of different ways you can do it. And your own homegrown solution would probably work. But I would look into confidence monitors on Amazon, or just maybe read a little bit about it. I picked mine up fairly inexpensively from Amazon, and work like a charm. Last thing is lighting. I think that the lighting's everything, right? I can't pan around. I don't have any help in my studio here to do a camera around. But if you look, there's this huge, like, I don't know, 7, 8 foot umbrella thing. That's actually, you can kind of probably see from my glasses, right? This is like this huge, like, eye in the sky shining down on me. There's lights behind me. There's special TV lights above me, and the ultimate result is, a good quality photo and an image, that takes you uh, above the crowd, right, in terms of shining out and being standoutish in terms of your Zoom backgrounding. I think that look at sorry, right. So those are my favorite tools. I promise you guys I talk a little bit about Shield IA because I'm such a big engagement guy on LinkedIn. I wanted to talk about Steve's views, the views that I'm getting on LinkedIn, and show you the kind of the organic work. So what Shield will tell you is it'll tell you that for example, this year at the same time, last year I had 22,000 views, in the January to February period. This year I'm blowing that out. I have 52,000 some hundred views, and Shield gives you the ability to see this and track, and helps you obviously that content. I've almost well, I've doubled plus my views in that same time period. One of the things about Shield is that it also tell you your engagement rate, right? The experts tell you that engagement rates on LinkedIn, if you're hitting about 2% on, this is on Steve's engagement rates, you'll see that 2% is really, really good engagement. And you can see on the chart that I have that camera just went out for a second, so I'm not sure if that upset the show. But the chart we were looking at is Steve's engagements rate, and you can see there it's at some of my content has been at 5.5% recently. I think last but not least, I think as you look at the ability, right, to engage on LinkedIn, you have to always say, well, how do you have the tools to get there? And I think some of the must-haves that I utilize, I love to have a good graphic artist. I love to have a great virtual assistant. And I think having a good background, you've noticed we've increased or changed the background on Ocean Audit here. And it's really, having a nice formative background, definitely adds beauty and creativity to the set. I think one of the things I want to do just in closing is, and you've been watching Steve Ferreira, CEO of Ocean Audit on Navigate B2B, is I would like to talk about Quitless, The Power of Persistence, my new anthology coming out in April, and it's going to be followed by Navigating B2B, Master Your Industry, Your Business, and Yourself in August. I just want to read a small excerpt from Quitless, The Power of Persistence. This is a little teaser of my upcoming anthology that one of my other co-authors is Po Chung, the co-founder or the original co-founder of DHL, as well as many other talented authors in this anthology. So this chapter or this excerpt I'll read to you is called the 50% rule. Immediately after I sold my first company, I regretted my decision. I regretted becoming a millionaire at the age 37. The seven-figure price tag of my international shipping company was a dangling carrot I couldn't resist, even if it meant giving up control of a company I had grown for over 3 years. What's worse is that I had no backup plan when I sold the company. I thought I was bulletproof, but I wasn't. Within a year, my shields turned out to be less protective than I thought. The company that bought my company failed to reach their goals and everything came crashing down. My holdings went from 1.3 million to 400,000 overnight. I couldn't believe that I lost control over something I'd worked so hard to build. I had reached success by pretending I had nothing to lose. But this moment was a reminder that I could lose it all in a heartbeat. To prevent losing it again, I needed to tap into the perseverance and talent that had led me to success initially. I believe that success is achieved through 50% perseverance and 50% talent. This sounds like a simplified formula, but it's taken years for me to understand and use it as I built successful companies. Once I tapped into this mantra and identified my talents and persevered with them, I bounced back from my biggest setbacks. My current company has enjoyed seven figures in revenue for 3 years, and we're just getting started. And so that's a little teaser or excerpt from my book, Quitless: The Power of Persistence. One last thing I'd like to add to my audience: I know you're going through a very vulnerable period with ocean rates in April and May. It's going to be the most crucial months of your life and challenging months as you start to transition into the new ocean rates. So let's do this as an industry's first. I've created Ocean Shield, and Ocean Audit and Ocean Shield would like to offer you 100% free real-time auditing for that 1 month period so that we take care of your most vulnerable period and that you as logistics professionals and finance professionals do not get overbilled. That's 100% free to the entire trade. And it's my way of giving back to the community in the most vulnerable of times. And this all circles back, not promotionally, but back to the men and women that have just joined or are inheriting these roles in Containergeddon. The show today has been about tools. I gave you some of my favorite tools, and I want to give back some of the tools in Ocean Shield, for example, which can make you stand out to your executives and get you off to the right start. So the ball's in your court. Everything that we say here is really growth for the soul, growth for the business. And we want to thank you for the time that you've given me today on Navigate B2B. And I'm Steve Ferreira, again, CEO of Ocean Audit. We invite you to Global Supply Chain Week, Global Maritime Week. You'll see me hopefully quite often there. And wishing you all a safe, healthy, happy weekend. We love you, and we'll see you next week. Have a great day.